Well, earlier this year, a Commonwealth judge ruled Pennsylvania is not getting it right when it comes to funding schools, saying its methods are insufficient and unconstitutional. And this morning, the Basic Education Funding Commission met for the final time in Harrisburg. And here with me today to talk about school funding, the co-chairs of that committee, State Senator Kristen Phillips of York and State Representative Mike Sturla of Lancaster. Thank you both for joining us. Senator Phillips, I'm going to begin with you. You know, many school districts in the Susquehanna Valley say that they are underfunded and are encountering more need for specialized education and individual education plan. Please tell me, what's the best path forward that you think the state can do to meet that need?
I think it's important to note that the Basic Education Funding Commission, the law that created it, statutorily requires us to review the funding formula. And that's what we have been in the process of doing. That is our statutory requirement. And we have gone all across the Commonwealth. We've heard from diverse stakeholders. We finished up today with 3 panels, hearing from charters, cyber charters, from school counselors, nurses, librarians. And we're taking all that information. And now the hard part begins. We need to craft the report and provide it to the governor and the General Assembly. And that paper is due on January 11th.
And you talk about the money because, you know, everybody talks about the funding, but is it just about money? You hinted at it a little bit here, you know, talking about other solutions. What other strategies can the state and public school systems implement to ensure a fair and equitable education across the board for all students?
You know, we're looking at that formula, what the weights are. What the criteria for those weights in that formula are, how school districts are impacted, how students are impacted. You know, we've taken a lot of testimony that there's a cliff. So when a school district who's getting money for concentrated poverty lose 1 or 2 students, they can lose a massive amount of funding. They still may really need those dollars to provide that education to students. So those are some of the things that we are looking at.
Yeah, and one last question before we get to Rep. Sturla. Should the state actually expand school choice, and if so, how do you pay for that?
Well, I think the Senate put forward a responsible plan to do past scholarships for students in the 15% lowest performing schools, with students whose families live at 250% below the poverty line. And I think certainly that was a reasonable proposal to try and address the needs of some of our poorest students in our most challenged school districts.
Yeah, Senator Phillips Hill, thank you so much. Representative Sturla, I want to get to you. What are the next steps you think that the state needs to take in order to achieve a sufficient and constitutional method to fund schools? How do we get that done?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it goes beyond the formula itself. The formula is a major part of it. But as was pointed out in the 786-page court decision, there are a whole lot of other factors. There are what we call buckets of money outside the formula itself, whether that's the way we fund teacher retirement, whether it is early childhood education, special education. All those things exist outside of the formula itself. But if we just deal with the formula and we don't deal with the other parts that affect basic education, we will have failed at our job, because I mean, it's real easy to fund the basic ed formula. I just don't fund anything else that goes along with it. So, you know, I always call it a big calculus problem funded by a lot of smaller calculus problems.
Yeah, well, you touched on a bit on that there. Equitable access to education. Obviously, we were just talking about that. That is big on the minds of many teachers and parents in the Susquehanna Valley. So exactly what is the state doing right now to make sure every student receives that fair education we talk about?
Well, there's a portion of our education funding formula right now that looks at fair funding. But that's only about 30% of the money that we put into education. The other part is the base part of that formula. And that part was established when we had the worst funding strategy in the entire country. We were ranked 51st, not just 50th, 51st. And so part of it is changing the base of that basic ed funding formula. Part of it's putting more dollars into the overall education system. I mean, the court said basically, while money isn't everything, it's a whole lot. We know that schools that have the dollars available to them are doing a better job by and large, than schools that don't have those dollars available to them. If you get to spend $20,000 per student in one school and $10,000 in another, you can't really expect the same outcomes if you have the same kids going to those same two schools. And it's not fair either. And that's where they talked about a two-tier funding system, because basically there are some schools that are adequately funded and others that aren't. We need to establish some adequacy levels. We need to then distribute that money equitably, and we need to do it in a timely fashion so that it's not 30 years from now when those kids finally have access. A 35-year-old doesn't care whether their kindergarten is now adequately funded or not. They cared about it when they were 5.
Yeah, well, that funding makes a big difference. And before we go, I just want to mention some of your colleagues today are saying that they want to introduce legislation that would create the Student Freedom Account Program. Do you support the expansion of school choice?
No, look, it is.
I certainly think that empowering parents to provide the education they think is best for their children is always a good thing. So I have not had an opportunity to review that. We were in a commission meeting for most of the day, but I will certainly look forward to taking a look at it. And I think it's important to remember that, again, we are statutorily required to address the funding formula.
Well, before we go, Representative Mike Strolla, I do want to get to you. You had a response, so I do want to hear what you have to say.
No. Look, I don't support that because, look, the way the programs have been set up, like it's the bottom 15% of all school districts in the state of Pennsylvania. There will always be a bottom 15%. There's a bottom 15% of doctors that graduated from their medical college. That doesn't mean they're bad doctors. It just means that they were in the bottom 15%. So, look, there are things that we need to do to address education in the state of Pennsylvania and funding for education. If and when we are adequately funding schools, they aren't performing, then I'm okay with looking at alternatives. But we know why they aren't performing right now. It's because they are so inadequately funded that we can't expect them to actually be getting any other results than what they're getting us.
And if I could finish what I was saying, we rank in the top 10 across the nation in terms of what we spend in education. And it's interesting to note that in that decision that has been referenced by so many, the judge opined that it's not necessarily how much money, it's how we collect that money and how we distribute that money. So we're spending a lot on public education. It's just how we're collecting it that's creating the troubles.
State Representative Mike Strolla of Lancaster and State Senator Kristen Phillips of York. Passionate conversation. Thank you both for spending some time with us today. Laura.